Hello, everyone, and welcome to another X's and Dogs podcast. Today, I join you all in the midst of a blizzard outside. I'm looking out my window just ahead of me, and all I see is some pretty heavy snowfall here in Northeast Ohio. So hopefully everyone is staying safe, maybe enjoying the weather if you're into the snow. I think on a Sunday, if I was going to pick a day of the week, a Sunday where there's championship games on in the NFL, it's not a terrible day to be snowed into your apartment, your house, etc. So hopefully everyone can stay safe, stay warm, enjoy the football today. Hopefully everyone kind of pre-planned with some shopping so that way they don't have to go out to any grocery stores or anything over the next couple days. Wherever you join me from, I'm sure it's pretty ugly for you because it seems to be that way pretty much across the whole entire country at this point. But anyway, I wanted to make a Sunday edition of the show today for a couple of reasons. First off, I wanted to talk about what happened in Pittsburgh yesterday. I also want to get into some of the leaks we heard from Ian Rappaport regarding the Browns head coach search, because I think we're really getting to a place where the solutions are narrowing down quite a lot here in Cleveland. So we'll get to that later on in the show. Recording this before the championship games. I'm not sure if it's going to come out to you guys before or after those games occurred, but I'll give you a quick prediction into who I think are winning those two games maybe at the end of the show today as well. To start, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it seems like they got their guy, and I say that kind of in an ironic sense, in kind of a poking fun sense, to if there are any Steelers fans watching today's podcast. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about the Mike McCarthy hire, in Pittsburgh. So I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it. I think I had initially, before yesterday, viewed the Pittsburgh Steelers job as Chris Shula's to lose. I thought Chris Shula was a guy who was going to go in there for another interview. It was harder. It's going to be harder to get, or you're going to have to wait longer to get Shula into the building. You're going to have to be a little patient because he's still on a team that's competing, obviously, with the Rams. So they were going to have to wait till next week to have that in-person interview with Shula. And I thought, based on his age, based on he's a defensive guy, based on just his personality, I thought everything fit the Steelers and what they do perfectly for Chris Shula. And I honestly wasn't even aware that the Steelers had any interest in Mike McCarthy. But to everyone, I think everyone's surprised, the Steelers go out there yesterday and hire Mike McCarthy to be their next head coach. And I just want to talk about how, in my opinion, this shows how clear it is that the Steelers kind of lack a direction, or they have a belief that I think is just a little unrealistic for the team. What I mean by that is this. I thought in Pittsburgh it was going to be a perfect opportunity for them to get another younger head coach who's innovative, who has new ideas about the league, and can provide a spark to that team. But, and I think additionally with that, the Steelers are a team that I did not see being able to compete for anything serious in the next however many years. I think they kind of need a refresh there in Pittsburgh. I thought it was a good time to bring in a coach, maybe go into next year, lose a decent amount of games, and then draft a quarterback in the following draft. That's the way I viewed the situation in Pittsburgh. I thought that made a lot of sense. And I'm not saying Mike McCarthy really throws a huge wrench in that, but I think bringing in a guy like Mike McCarthy, who I'm sure is going to want to win games pretty quickly for the Steelers, I think it really limits their ability to go on this quick refresh period that I think is very necessary there. I think it opens the door to Aaron Rodgers returning for another season. They have their connection from Green Bay. I'm not sure what that relationship is like, if it's good or bad, but I think there definitely is a chance that Aaron Rodgers now returns for another season, and I just don't really see the direction that the team is choosing to go down with, a 42-year-old quarterback and now a 62-year-old coach, and also one of the oldest rosters in the league around them. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that's a Steelers team that has been needing to just kind of tear things down to a certain extent for a long time, and I thought the firing of, or the removing and resignation of Mike Tomlin was going to be the point where they accepted that fate, but it seems like that's certainly not the case in Pittsburgh. It seems like they are going to be attempting to go now down a path of being 9-8 or 10-7 again next year, and more than likely having no chance to really compete in the playoffs. But again, if there are any Steelers fans or anyone who knows Steelers fans, I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this topic. As a Browns fan, I cannot complain about it. I think that I would argue that this was the wrong hire for them for all the reasons that I talked about today. Regardless, he will be the coach of the Steelers next year. We do not have to deal with Chris Shula coming in and probably being the next coach in Pittsburgh for a couple decades. And for Browns fans, it removes a team who, I believe, honestly, one of the only other teams who were actively interviewing Nathan Scheelhaase, which I'll get to Nathan Scheelhaase here in a second, but I think he's the favorite to get the job here in Cleveland currently. So, removing another team who I think probably provided a more, a better appearing job from the surface. Like you would rather go work with the Steelers than the Browns at a surface level. So I think removing that team from the equation is a positive thing for the Browns. And that's kind of my spin from a Browns perspective on that hire. So I guess we can go ahead and switch over now to talk about what's going on here in Berea. So Ian Rappaport made a leak yesterday, a leak or kind of just a report insinuating that the Browns, or that Nathan Scheelhaase in particular, has interest in allowing the Browns to keep Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator while he takes over as the head coach. And I think that report, to me, confirms that Jim Schwartz is more than likely now not really in consideration for the head coach position. And I just think that if Jim was really going to be in consideration for the head coach spot, the team wouldn't be putting out leaks like this. I think more than likely what's going on behind the scenes right now is that both Udinski and Scheelhaase have expressed that they are content with Jim Schwartz staying as their defensive coordinator. And now it just kind of comes down to selecting between Udinski or Scheelhaase. The other piece of news that did come out, which, I've talked about my disliking for the way the Rooney Rule works in the NFL today, and how I think it really serves as a disrespect to candidates who are well respected throughout the league and deserve real shots at different coaching positions. But it's just the way the league works currently, and these teams have to, I guess, abide by the rules, even if it means kind of coming across as a little bit disrespectful to some of these candidates, which I, as an outside fan, have quite the disdain for. But I've talked about that already in previous podcasts. The Browns did bring in Anthony Lynn. I believe he's the run game coordinator in Washington currently. So that obviously checks one of the minority candidate boxes, meaning that after the Browns fly out to LA to interview Nathan Scheelhaase on Monday, they will be able to immediately hire him on the spot or hire Udinski or Jim Schwartz or whoever they are planning on hiring at this point. So, to everyone who was up in arms about the Browns not satisfying the Rooney Rule, it really just happened in the snap of a finger. I think everyone kind of panicked for no reason to a certain extent. And I tried to calm everyone down in my last podcast, making it very clear that this team can satisfy the Rooney Rule is, very easily. But I thought they were doing the right thing by, actively looking at minority candidates who they want to hire. That's how the rule should work in the NFL, and it's unfortunate it doesn't, but the Browns, of course, now are able to, as I said, hire their guy after they finish this Scheelhaase interview. I've been very open on social media on this podcast that I think Nathan Scheelhaase is the best candidate for the job. I think between him and Udinski, it's a very close argument. You could make the argument for either one of them, and I would hear you out, obviously. But I just think Scheelhaase has more experience leading particular position groups, more experience kind of overall. I think he's done a decade of position group coaches, was obviously the offensive coordinator at Iowa State, I believe. And also I think he has the better history as far as coaches that he's been under. He's in their tree. Obviously, the Sean McVay coaching tree has a fantastic track record in the NFL. All of these guys who are, it seems at least that all of these offensive-minded guys who are having success in the league at one point were under Sean McVay. And for me, that's just hard to get out of my brain. And and that may be unfair to Udinski, but it certainly is something to keep in mind, and I'm sure the Browns are doing so. But like I said, if they choose either one of these guys, I will 100% be on board with them, even though I am definitely on team Nathan Scheelhaase currently. If the Browns go Udinski, I'll be right there on board with the rest of you guys, and I'm sure and I hope everyone is willing to do that with whoever the Browns decide to hire. And on that note, I think the Browns probably will have a decision made by Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. It could even come out as soon as Monday night after the interview with Scheelhaase. And that's exciting, right? We're going to know the direction that this team is going down for the head coach. And I think it's something we've been living in this limbo over the past couple weeks, not really knowing, talking about potential draft options and quarterback options without even knowing who the head coach is, who's going to have a really big say in those decisions. So I think we're going to be pointed in a good direction as far as where this team is heading very, very soon. And I'll obviously have podcasts up to you guys as soon as we hear from the Browns organization as to which direction they're going in. I plan to have kind of like an emergency style podcast once we get the news. But anyway, I want to quickly wrap up today's show. I know this is a short podcast. It's kind of a bonus edition. I don't normally do Sunday podcasts here in the off season, but I thought there was a decent amount to talk about today. But I'm going to wrap it up by giving you guys my quick picks in the games that are happening later today. I'm going to try to get this out to you guys before the games start. For me, my prediction for the Super Bowl is going to be the Patriots. I think while Denver will keep it close, it's a home game for them. They have a fantastic defense. Vance Joseph and that defensive staff has just made a monster on that side of the ball in Denver. But I think that, not having their starting quarterback will just be too much to overcome in a championship game. And they've done fantastic this year. Just super unfortunate for the Broncos to lose their quarterback in that spot last week. But I'm going Patriots in that one to get the road win. And I am going the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not willing to bet against Matt Stafford in a game where he's playing Sam Darnold. It really comes down to that for me. While the Seahawks have been winning games, Sam Darnold has not looked fantastic, really, for the better part of the past 3 months. So, I'm just going to put my money on Matt Stafford in that one. Both the teams are really, really talented pretty much everywhere. I think that really is the Super Bowl. I think whoever wins that game is more than likely going to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with Stafford. I think Stafford, honestly, this is kind of a spoiler for my Super Bowl pick, assuming they make it. I think Stafford's going to get himself another ring. I think he's going to probably be the Super Bowl MVP. I think he's going to be the MVP of the league and solidify, in my opinion, his Hall of Fame career. But yeah, taking Matt Stafford and the Rams, taking Drake May and the Patriots to face off in the Super Bowl. Hopefully everyone's able to enjoy the games today, and hopefully we are given some really good football games. As always, hopefully everyone stays safe in the snow and the cold weather. It's going to be freezing all week, so we got to work through it, but I'll be making content for you guys all week, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.